I knew we were in for something special concerning an unwelcome guest. I had that tease earlier on, right, with the chorus debut as I specified with our previous interaction to that song, but on re-entrance and considering that song fully, that is a beautiful opener for a dark euphony. It's been sitting with me since last night. And in the midst of just considering what we're in for, right? It's a beautiful tease to the remainder of our journey together, as promised a while ago, about a month back, and I did not mean for the delay to take this long, but concerning BLACKBRIAR, I told you we would take a full album run-through, as we have in developments of what's been released thus far in preparatory single debuts, anything again in advance of the album, but the remaining 7 pieces of which we've now humored the first one of full album debut, we are in for a real promising direction. And I imagined it would be believable concerning BLACKBRIAR's credits. I've been familiarized now to their work for 3 to 4 years, somewhere in that window ever since my early introduction in 2020. And the idea of humoring a full album run-through of BLACKBRIAR's work, couldn't shake it. I've said many times, music I think is better enjoyed in company, and however we approach, and I hope I'm accommodating any interest here, or any development perspective interest. And for any of you who are a fresh initiate standing, I can't wait for you to be introduced to BLACKBRIAR, or maybe, generally the European rock and metal foray. Think as well initiation, so we're all on even footing here. Gothic symphonic metal of Dutch origin, with a mythic influence on the narratives that is incredibly complex, and I still love the intrusion of 2 different worlds and extremes, again, depending on viewer subjectivity of analysis. You can look at these pieces any which way you want, rather they be seen in an ancient mythological light, registered to particular traditions and cultures of countries abroad. There's been a good mix so far, and I'm considering the entire body, not just of a dark euphony, but the entire body of BLACKBRIAR's releases of many years past. Or you can take a look at it from a contemporary lens. Their numbers are incredibly striking, again, however you choose to perceive them. But if you just wish to look at it from a musical standpoint, scoring on vocals, they always delight me. Favorite top-tier band of mine, not only one of my earliest introductions, if not the earliest, into the symphonic metal landscape, which is a particular favorite of mine, of being a metalhead of many years, but in the European metal world, or even, let's go broader than that, the rock world in general. Rock and metal, I kind of interweave the two, and there's reason for that, as anybody I'm sure would attest. They're one of my top-tier favorites, go-to replays. I love BLACKBRIAR. If you've never been introduced, I know some of you have, right? And I welcome the company of anybody. It's my hope that we have a bit of a diversity here in how we approach. Longtime fans, get ready to enjoy this in company with me again, as promised, and I deliver on that, no matter how late it takes me. Anywho, or any of you fresh initiates, welcome. Let this be your first step into BLACKBRIAR, and maybe, I would recommend, by the way, in pursuance of this album, you consider the tracks we've humored of what's been unveiled. We're only on track 2 of the album listing, so if you want to pursue it independently, maybe you haven't heard those original singles, I would recommend first an Unwelcome Guest and then Return, so that you're on an even course with all of us. But get ready for a delightful ride as we stand in mutual company, perhaps, on initiate introduction, or maybe you've humored this number before, Far Distant Land. Just on the idea of BLACKBRIAR, right? I know what I'm getting on suspicion. I've had my faith fulfilled so many times over the course of their library, and each piece, again, to any BLACKBRIAR initiates, are prospective BLACKBRIAR initiate fans, their library in entirety is a welcome experience. I would recommend digging back further if you haven't. Maybe to some of their origin pieces. And the evolution, by the way, to this group of Where We Now Stand of a Dark Euphony, and their first ever nuclear blast publication, it really speaks to their efforts. I mean, BLACKBRIAR has such a great focus on their work and a great canvas of application to whatever type of element you consider. Incredibly dense pieces. I cannot wait for you to be introduced again if this is your initiate encounter. And we're going to continue with Far Distant Land, track number 2 out of 11. Again, 6 numbers now, considering this one as well, in that total of what we're going to be humoring, with more to come. Anyway, I've been meaning to get back to BLACKBRIAR. It's so nice. I've held out. I cannot believe, again, I've resisted temptation for so long to humor this for myself. I've held out about a month, for maybe a slight couple days over that. I don't know at this point. It's been so long, but we're taking the initiate journey together, and I hope it's a delightful one for you. Again, however you approach, I welcome everybody. Let's continue on in our BLACKBRIAR adventure together. Oh, hang on a second. All right. That's better. Speaking of outside cultures, this one already has the influence on that in terms of musical embodiment. Fantasy Q immediately. There's the metal root. Great balance to an incredibly scenic number. The whistles are a nice element. Very dainty. And that vibrato is a beautiful touch, Zora. Marriage on tone and vocals, it's perfect balance. And the echoes are a nice build. I love when her voice climbs like that. Switch on the emphasis because of the tonal shift in the elevation elevation and the descent on octaves. Good mix here. And a steady recap too. It's definitely a metal number. It has that spine of a folk cue. Okay, so here's the fresh lines. I was going to say, generally, these verses are a bit of a recap to the previous iterations. Isn't that a gorgeous line? If this piece was trying to cue a romantic mood in which I feel tried and drawn to it, it's already worked. In particular, that originalist expression, I've never heard a metaphor or a simile to a dragonfly in amber. Such a cool visual, though. It's consecrated. This number registers very well. That's a good piece. And the outro choice to have it mimic like an acoustic style voice. It's an unexpected direction for the song to take, but it totally marries back into the original interluding tune. Like I said, distinctive folk vibe. I was tempted to place it, partly because I'm very knowledgeable at this point on German folk rock and or folk music. Let's be inclusive, metal or rock. I've heard both extremes. If you want to consider D'Artagnan or Feuerschwangs in that, those are the main credits. Of more to come specifically in that vein as of phase 2. I've got a number of groups already cataloged and decisions are already slated on what tracks to recognize, but we're going to be looking at different variations of folk music from time to time. That swing immediately comes back in. Though I'm tempted to say German in origin, but I think you could apply it anywhere else because it's so similar to a fantasy-evoking, established nature, which again fits the mythic emphasis of BLACKBRIAR, even though when I consider these pieces, and this isn't going to be the case for every other number on the record in terms of a fresh lens, some I already have a bit of a window on, and others maybe there is some declaration. There's variation in this from time to time. I'll tell you in advance. And I understand maybe the band has not gotten the packages released yet. I did pre-order because I like to analyze lyrics and get in the mindset of the artist, especially where you see such creative exploration like what BLACKBRIAR every time employs. I have pre-ordered the behind the lyrics or whatever it's called, the inspirational package as part of their pre-order, and they haven't gotten it out yet. I keep checking my account regularly. So they were on the road, as their site acknowledges, so it makes sense that there'd be a bit of a delay, and I think they're handling that independently. So for Far Distant Land, I'm operating void of an official declaration on what was intended on thematic inspiration. If you happen to be knowledgeable on that, though, feel free to chime in down below. I welcome any clarification. What I can say about it is it's a deeply transfixing, romanticized number. The way I feel drawn in particular, and this is true to so many of their works, there's fabulous storytelling, but specific lines are so original. And the effect of what even the lyrics speak of, I'm sure I can hear you calling my name, and through the stones I went to that far distant land. Again, there's a definitive mythic feel here. It's just embodied so well in the soul of the song. But when you hear that inspiration, then you hear Zora's voice. It takes on that transfixing, siren-like effect. Maybe it's just true to Dutch singers. And I'll tell you, in preparation, when I say siren, I've got more coming that fit along that bill, but I can't wait to explore deeper. But Zora, I would apply, again, a transfixing allure. The freshness, though, on the presence of the lyrics, on the second chorus, I love the evolution, by the way, how there is differentiation on the overall song. I thought, based on interpretation of walking in, there would be a lot of repetition between the different verse constructions of the song, so maybe the second chorus iteration with no third. I like that switch. I would think again it'd be a replication. By the way, the first verse, copying it for a second reprisal, but then changing the octave structure, good move. I like that. Again, differentiation where maybe you feel that if there were just a flat-out replication, it might feel like a stagnated presence that would be better constrained, but the fact that they give it a different facade. Again, keep attention engaged on the differentiation of voice and the contrasts. I really like the appearance of the song. It's sitting in well. Again, that folk energy to it. It's so distinctive and I can't ignore it. I love that edge. But that one line, I'm stepping through the stony door. I can feel you in my soul like I know exactly where to go. Again, there's the replication. Then the differentiation comes in. Our love is like the dragonfly in amber preserved in time. Isn't that just a wonderful simile? I come from writing backgrounds. It's one of the first things I noticed. But I've never heard romanticized passion and seeking embodied that well. Not with a comparison to a dragonfly in amber and that preservation. It's not the first time they played around with that type of metaphor as well. Specifically with the dragonfly, that's fresh, but I think of like Preserved Rose, one of the earlier pieces off of their Fractured Fairy Tales EP. They really hit nicely with their narratives. I've said that many times in BLACKBRIAR. They always impress to whatever extreme you look at. Again, if you want to go by the original inspiration to the numbers as consecrated by the band's identification, there's that lens. Or if you want to pair it to modern, a contemporary energy in the way that we approach it, right? Even today, even though it might be a piece that is in some way tied back in the history of time or in particular mythic expression, you can look at it now and still feel just as transfixed and lured in. Right? I do. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a lovesick single person. That's probably why. But, I cast my sorrows into my musical enjoyment, for sure. All these pieces fulfill a nice void in my life. At BLACKBRIAR, though, man, I love covering them. As I said, sophistication, complexity, and a density to their numbers that is widely appreciative. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are down below, and where you approach. Longtime fan, fresh initiate listener, what are your thoughts on Far Distant Land? Believably, it would be great. That's the case of BLACKBRIAR in a general manner. And I've said nothing different in any consultation I've given their work, with more to come. And I'm looking forward to continuing on our adventure mutually. Next with, what's this next piece? Let me go back on order here. Spirit of Forgetfulness, track number 3. I'm looking forward to track number 4 specifically, but the next one is a visualizer accompaniment, and those are always fun. Music videos of BLACKBRIAR, again, when you sense that passion directly, it's great. A dark euphony, though, broadly speaking, is impressing. But the follow-up from an unwelcome guest as we go through the album together and individually recognize each piece apart from one another or as a cohesive work, Far Distant Land is also a great number. Again, predictable with BLACKBRIAR, but in a great sense. I'm always satisfied with their work, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.